Okay. So May the 27th, I hope this is the second video. And moving in. So let's start with our meditation by Suzanne Wilson. So we can start this meeting. Can you guys hear okay?
Sit upright in a chair, both feet on the floor. Yoga students may prefer the half lotus position, or you may need to lie down with a pillow under your knees to support your back. Let your hands rest in your lap, palms facing up. Close your eyes and mouth and breathe gently through your nose. With each inhale, visualize white light entering your body. And as you exhale, let all your breath out slowly, breathing in white light and breathing out all stress, anxiety, letting it go. Simply be in the now, the present, this very moment. Divine Source, thank you for blessing me with this day, with my life and all my many blessings. Thank you for giving me another day to be of service in this life and in this body. I ask that you cleanse me in divine white light, erasing all energy that does not belong in my auric field. Surround me in a beautiful, translucent, golden bubble of protection that is bathed in your divine white light, sealing in all my positive energies and good health, sealing out all negative energies, all ill health, all entities from lower realms, and I send white light to the lower realms, so that only peace, love, and protection may enter in. I give gratitude for my spiritual team, spirit guides, angels, and my loved ones in the light. I send this light out to each of my loved ones on both the physical plane and the spiritual plane. I send this light out to all those in need of a physical, emotional, or spiritual healing. I connect with universal consciousness. I connect with all beings who are in meditation at this moment. I am eternal. I am one with Divine Source. I am one with all. Compassion guides all my thoughts, words, actions, and I trust that I will complete my greater work before I transition to heavenly home. With gratitude and joy, I am a child of God. And so it is.
All right. So today, May the 27th. So we said that we would start our discussions over André Luiz spiritual realm series. So all the books from André Luiz, and today is the day for us to discuss the first book of the series, Astral City. The name is actually Nosso Lar in Portuguese, Astral City in English, with the subtitle Living in the Spiritual Realm. We have a lot of material over here. I don't think we'll cover everything in one day, but I'm not concerned about covering everything in a single day. The intent is really for us to discuss about the book, discuss about the importance of this book, the importance of the lessons that we can find in this book. So, if we do not finish today, then we can continue another day, not a problem. If you remember, when we shared this learning pyramid, and we were talking about the more we practice, the more we learn, the more we get in touch with the lessons or with the teachings, then the more we absorb from it. And that's what we are trying to do over here. We are about to start our discussion on this very important book, and evidently, as we share the knowledge, as we call attention to all the things that we notice in there, then the idea is really for us to grasp more and more, to learn more and more about the book. At the end of the day, what we are planning on doing is to absorb all those knowledge. So if by any chance we meet someone that needs to know some of that, or we can help someone with some of those lessons, then there it goes. It's going to be our opportunity to do it, and we'll be ready. At the end of the day, like the minister Genésio, in the book, he said, when the server is ready, the job appears. So if we want to help the other, if we want to be assisting somebody else, if we want to be of any service, then we need to prepare ourselves ahead of time. So that's what we are trying to do. The more we exercise this, the more we discuss, then the more we learn. And we absorb that knowledge. So what I'm gonna do, I will play this trailer, and then we can talk about that. Just so you know, I'm assuming everybody have seen this video, right? This movie, right? Oh, sorry. This is just a trailer.
Olá, André. Como está?
Que lugar é esse? Quem são vocês? O que aconteceu aqui comigo?
Todas as suas perguntas vão ser respondidas no tempo devido.
Luiz, eu preciso de explicações.
A vida na Terra é que é uma cópia daqui, André. Mas tudo aqui tem um porquê e um sentido, como você vai ver.
Meu Deus! Como posso mandar uma mensagem para minha família? Preciso vê-los.
Como ele era, Clarice?
Ele era um homem bom, não tinha muito tempo pra gente.
Amados irmãos, uma grande guerra de alcance mundial começa. Milhões de almas voltarão em breve.
Eu não vou esperar anos e anos para retornar. Vamos embora.
Perdoe.
Há corações orando por você.
André, o mundo precisa de histórias felizes.
Um dia você vai entender. É sempre tempo de recomeçar. Alguma vez você imaginou vida depois da vida?
There you go. Life after life. That's Astral City. So I hope everybody have seen this movie. And one thing that I would like to comment, and Luiz, Leda, anybody, please just interrupt them whenever you guys feel like. But this book, like I said before, was the very first one. It was written from André Luiz. It was written in 1944. So that's why in the movie saying, the spiritual realm, they become aware of this war. It was the Second World War that was coming. So the name of the spirit is André Luiz. Is a coded name. So it's not a real name of the person that actually or the spirit that was actually writing that book. But back in the day, back in the early 40s, Chico Xavier, he wrote some books from a very renowned writer, Brazilian writer, and his name was Humberto de Campos. And what happened to Chico after those books, to the dismay of the entire population, is that he had serious problems. He was taken to the court because of those books. And his family, the Humberto de Campos, the writer's family, took Chico Xavier to the court. So you may think that they took Chico to the court because, they were saying that Chico was using Humberto de Campos' name to become famous or something like this. But the fact is, Humberto de Campos' family took Chico to the court to claim for the copyrights of Chico Xavier's book. So it was a problem for Chico. Evidently, he never had any intention of making money out of those books. As a matter of fact, Chico Xavier always donated all the copyrights of any of his books or the books that he was writing he donated all those copyrights to institutions like Spiritist centers, charity organizations, etc. And but anyway, because of that issue that happened to Chico and Humberto de Campos, after that fact, Humberto de Campos then continued to write books using Chico Xavier mediumship, but then he was using a code name, and that was Brother X, no longer using his own name. And because of that same reason, André Luiz picked a code name. And in fact, we do not know who exactly André Luiz was, but there is a very strong theory, if you will, that Humberto de Campos, André Luiz was a very famous, very renowned Brazilian doctor, and his name was Carlos Chagas. So Chico Xavier never said who that guy was. He never asked, by the way, despite the fact that he could see the guy, but Chico Xavier never revealed, he never said who André Luiz was in fact. Chico used to say that, you know, why he was donating all the copyrights, because he said, well, the books, they are not mine. I just help them, I just channel them. They are not really mine, so I cannot claim any rights on those books. What else? The other thing is how Chico was introduced to André Luiz back in the early 1940s. So Chico was already a medium, he was already writing books, he was channeling books, etc. And one day, his guide, Emmanuel, told Chico that a friend, he just used the name, a friend, would stay close to Chico for a while with the intent of writing this book later on. So Chico never asked who that guy was, what his name, why Emmanuel was sponsoring that guy, how many books they're supposed to write, and for how long. Chico never asked. And that, to me, is a very, it is a strong indication how disciplined Chico was, how humble he was, because he was not interfering by no means on what he called, that's the spiritist job, you know. The thing also is, from that moment that Emmanuel introduced André Luiz to Chico, they were close for about 3 years, right, Luiz? André Luiz had to be close to Chico for about 3 years before they really started writing that book, isn't that?
I'm not sure, really. I don't remember the extent of the time. But one thing I'd like to add, Anna, before you wrap up this beginning, is that this book, right, it caused a turmoil in the spiritist field in Brazil.
Yeah,
So
and I have, yeah.
Because let me tell you something, spiritists in Brazil usually were the highest academic guys, people that were judges and scientists. They were the first spiritists in Brazil usually. And because of that, they follow the Kardecian criteria very closely. Why is that? Because the criterion was something that made people run away from all those very far-fetched theories that we can find in many kinds of spiritualisms. So it drew the attention of academic people, of skeptic people, to the idea of something that was more, to put their feet on the ground, safe ground. And because of this, when the revelations came through these books, right, people, kind of had the tendency of rejecting it. But by studying it profoundly and comparing with the criterion Kardec used, right, they had to capitulate, say, well, it doesn't go against, but it on the other hand, it develops the ideas, because in Kardecian books like the spirit books, we have the theory speaking about the spirit, speaking about the theory, you know, the doctrine that is a spiritual realms doctrine. And in these books, you see how these things are in practice, right? So this is something to be analyzed very well. And these books, they are books for you to study for life, because there are
exactly.
Yeah, because the spirits are, they are, one of the spirits that supervised these works was Dr. Bezerra de Menezes in the spiritual realms, a very intelligent guy. His lecturers were very, very clever. And he was a very morally high personality. And all these books, because, you know, Chico Xavier's mediumship was so rare that the spirits had the opportunity, a very rare opportunity, to get truth through this kind of medium. Because as Alan Kardec used to say, the real truth can only be said by high spirits. So Chico Xavier was a high spirit incarnated as a medium. So it was a great match. It doesn't happen very often. So they said, we had to take this opportunity and write everything very wisely through this guy, because it's going to work, right? And indeed, that's it. Just only remark.
Yeah, thank you. That's right. So and despite of the fact that Chico was a very high spirit, you know, and very high moral values, etc., there was still this time between, I want to say 3 years, because that's what I hear most, where Chico and the spirit of André Luiz, they had to stay together so they could align themselves energetically, spiritually. So the message that was about to be channeled through Chico was most accurate, most precise. So there was no mistake, like interpretation of something, just to make sure that whatever Chico was about to write is going to be exactly what the spirits want to say. As a matter of fact, this book, I put it over here as editors. Like Luiz was saying, this book had some editors, but when we say editors, we're not talking about incarnated people. We are talking about spirits. There was a group of spirits actually helping André Luiz to write this book. And the reason why was because they wanted to make sure that the book was about to carry the right message, the right information. But if you remember in the trailer, we had some dark and very scary scenes, right? Showing the lower realm where André Luiz woke up or arrived first time. And one of the things that they say, the spirits say, that they wanted André Luiz to filter some of those descriptions, so they do not, how can I say, impact, they do not leave such a bad image, such a strong and very scary image in incarnated people's mind. So even though what we see about the lower realms is scary, is dark, you know, some of those scenes, they are very disturbing, but it seems to be that it can be even worse, except that the spirits, they were trying to limit, they don't want to focus on that, you know, on that. They wanted to focus on the lessons that follow that scenes showing the lower realms. Okay. the other question is, why was Astral City chosen to be the first book of this series? That's something that I would like to bring attention to as well. And like Luiz was saying, perhaps this is a book that is for us to read and study for life, and read every now and then, every once in a while, because the more we study that, I mean, in a systematic way, the more we study, the more we understand, and the more we change our perspective in terms of certain scenes, some certain details, certain sentences that they use in there. So we become more aware of what exactly the spirits they want to tell us, and we become more familiar about some of the details on those teachings. The other thing also that I would like to mention, we said, I said that there is a very strong theory that André Luiz, and this is not a picture, this is a drawing. André Luiz, there is this very strong theory that André Luiz was actually Carlos Chagas. And let me show you a picture of Carlos Chagas. This is the real picture. This is the real doctor. This is the real doctor. This is a picture. And this is a drawing. Whoever was able to see the spirit of André Luiz. So it's very, very similar. Luiz, please.
Yes, and I also like to point out, right, that these books, like André Luiz's books, the higher spirits messages, those are really a sort of new Bible, right? Because they are so profound and they deserve to be studied, right, with very deep attention, because they are very transforming, and they reveal very, very profound truths about the spirit realm, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, because some people say, oh, not everything in these books are moral. Of course not. Pay attention to that. This book is written about, it is centered around a person from the first half of the 20th century, right? In a society that was very Catholic, the Brazilian society at that time, right? And of course, those people, because some people say, oh, these books are not doctrinary books, right? In terms, because, of course,
they're not meant to be.
They have dialogues, right?
Yeah.
And some spiritists say, oh, this is not a spiritist book. Why? Oh, there's a priest in the book. But people, not only spiritists, right, pass away. All kinds of people pass away. All kinds of people go to live in Astral City, right? Mm-hmm. It's something that I'd like to point out, and to understand that these things of the spiritual colonies are something very, is there something very interesting for it to study in depth. Go on, please.
Yeah, thank you, Luiz. Yeah, still talking about the theory between André Luiz and Carlos Chagas. If André Luiz is really Carlos Chagas was, like I said, a very famous, very successful, renowned scientist in Brazil, doctor and scientist. And it's very interesting because he was successful, he was celebrated, he was recognized, very how can I say, proud man. But when he transitioned to the other side, he had to start from scratch. He had to start from zero. He had no use as a doctor. So he had to start cleaning the the area he was working on. So doing the housekeeping, showing to us, giving us the very first lesson, which is humbleness. So it's a very, very interesting thing to point out. Also, I like to point out two things. Normally, when we read a book, we just jump the introductions and go straight to the book. But in this case, we have two introductions, one by Emmanuel and the other one by André Luiz. And the one by Emmanuel brings a very, very important message. Like Luiz was saying, this is not a doctrinal book. It's not a like very spiritist book, because this book is about telling the experience of someone who transitioned to the other side, and now he is realizing what is in the other side, what it is living out there in the spiritual realm. Emmanuel was saying, in his introduction, André Luiz, keep his experience in the book of the soul. So for us to take those teachings to our book of the soul, his experience says very loudly that it is not enough for the creature to cling on human existence, but one needs to know how to take advantage of it with dignity. Meaning that in the book, or preparing us for all the mistakes that André Luiz will realize once he finds himself in the spiritual realm. And then André Luiz mentioned, an existence, a chapter, a body, a suit, a service, an experience, a triumph, an acquisition, death, renewing, breath. Meaning, death is just the beginning of his lesson. So we better learn while we are here, because we have a purpose, we have a plan, we have a mission. So we better become more and more aware of what mission we need to accomplish before we transition to the other side and we found ourselves in the same situation as André Luiz was. I think we shared this before, but Astral City is the name of the movie. Astral City is the name of the place that they are calling the place that André Luiz went. But actually, we know that there are way too many Astral Cities. And Astral City specific one, the one that André Luiz is talking about, is over Rio de Janeiro city. And I found somewhere, I can't remember anymore, but somebody mentioned, 58 Astral cities located over Brazil airspace only. So, but I'm pretty sure every city or every place, every region that, do some type of work in terms of not spiritism, but spiritualism, there will be something. There will be another Astral City in that airspace. Okay, so the other question that comes to mind is, okay, so Astral City located on, in the aerospace of Rio, but how far from Earth? And in the book from Chico, I'm Back, that's the title of the book, there is a paragraph talking about the astral cities, talking about the spiritual realms, and they say that outside the terrestrial body, but connected to the same plane, billions of thinking beings evolve under the same condition as, in other words, those spiritual realms, they are not too far away, physically thinking, if you will, or they're not too far away from the surface. And as a matter of fact, I do not, Luiz or Leda, guys, do you remember where this
This map comes from?
yeah.
Yes, it's a story. There was a girl, Egorina. The woman, of course, called Egorina. She was paraplegic, and she started getting out of her body consciously, and she was taken to a place, and she started drawing this place, right? And once she took the maps to Chico Xavier, and Chico Xavier, amazed and surprised, said, "Well, this is Astral City." Well, we call it in Portuguese our home. This is our home. You're drawing the place that I wrote about in the book Astral City. And she kept doing this. And so this there's a book called Cidade no Além, which is the city beyond, right? And in this book, there are the maps. You can find the maps that are featured there. And she wrote, I think, this other map about, well, of course, the positions is something just pedagogical, because we are talking about dimensions.
Different dimensions, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a different thing, but just as, you know, the spirit, just to feed our need of rationality and something more common sense, they offer this kind of thing for us to have an idea.
Yeah. Thank you, Luiz. Leda, please.
I was just going to talk about these dimensions because this was the first book in which this law of the spiritual realm was described, which is you may be in a place in the spiritual world where you actually are, and there are other spirits around you and you cannot see them. So when André Luiz was in the lower realms, he had his mother beside him. He had this minister from Astral City, Clarencio, which was trying to help him, and he couldn't see them because he was stuck with his thoughts, and he had this very low vibrations. So this was the first book in which this was brought up, and this is a very important law in the spiritual realm, because sometimes there are spirits who think they are seeing everything, who think they know the spiritual world, and they don't, because they can't see the higher spirit. So we have many degrees of, so if Astral City is in one place in the spiritual realm, there are other astral cities in other dimensions, which André Luiz couldn't normally see as well, right? So this is very interesting.
Very, very nice. Good points, Leda. Thank you. Luiz.
Well, what Leda is pointing out is so important, people, because we're dealing with something that is, for us, still very unknown. And once when I started getting out of my body very consciously at the age of 22, I had some experiences that taught me something that later on I was going to read in this kind of books, is that in the spirit realms, you have people that have such a capacity of creativity that you can think you are in a realm, but it's just their imagination influencing you with a very high capacity of making up a scenery, a setting, for you to think that you are there, but you are not exactly there. So there's a lot of traps, and that's why we need to, for this kind of thing, for reaching the truths, we need very highly moral people. and very high spirits to get in touch with us, because things are not that easy as it may seem, you know?
Yeah, that's nice you mentioned this, because sometimes we can even be deceived, or they can deceive us saying that, oh, you talked to so-and-so, your mother or your father, or whatever, when in fact it was not your mother, was not your right? So yeah, thank you, Luis. Maria, please.
Ana, about the spiritual colonies in Brazil.
Astral cities. We don't say colonies.
Astral cities, okay. We have a book published a few years ago by the medium Wagner Gomes da Paixão, which talks about astral city called New Horizons, located above the Serra do Curral del Rei, at the top of the city of Belo Horizonte, in the Mangabeiras neighborhood, close to where we want to hold our meeting.
Okay, so what is the name of the
Novos Horizontes, New Horizons.
Oh, that, yeah, it's not showing over here, but what she's saying is there
New Horizons, yeah.
There is a colony on top of the place where our meeting will be held, specifically the neighborhood, and that we are looking for a house, and the name of that Astral City is New Horizon. Yeah, thank you, Maria. But something that I would like to point that out, you know, like Luis was saying, even though this picture over here depicts something that looks to be 2D or 3D, but we know this is different dimensions. This is just to feed our need for a picture, for something that we can put some thoughts and some to rationalize. But if we can say that Astral City place is not too far away from the surface of Earth. So that's what they say, and that's what they call that Astral City is actually is located in the lower realm. And the reason why it is exactly because it is one of the places where they rescue spirits in need, and they do the first aids. They keep hospitals, you know, places to actually in condition to actually deal with spirits that are not in such amazing or such in good shape. Luis, please.
Yes.
So, just 1 second, I need to say that. So, if you see Astral City as a nice place like heavens, well, this is not really quite there yet. So, this is so close to Earth that they have sense of time, and you know, you will see things like food or those kind of stuff. Sorry, go ahead, Luis.
Yes, this is something that created some kind of polemical behavior by someone. But for example, nowadays, people who study and practice this kind of knowledge, do you remember Dr. David Fontana, that from the SPR, the British SPR, that took part in the Skull Group experiment? He came to this conclusion after, you know, listening to the communications. He said, well, the lower zones are very similar to the physical plane, right? And this is, I think, an agreement among everybody that gets in touch with a physical or a mental mediumship, that the physical, the spirit planes next or near the crust, right, are very similar, right? On the other hand, in this book, we'll see André Luiz is going to sleep as a spirit, getting out of his body, with a lighter body and going to visit his mother at a higher plane.
A higher realm.
Which is not that similar to the physical plane anymore, right? It's a physical thing, it's a place, but not as much as Nostalawa, as Astral City, and all the like. So the higher we go, the more different things become, right?
That's a very good point, because at some point in the movie, in the book, they say the guy helping André Luiz and showing the whole place to André Luiz, he says, Lysias, he says to André Luiz that actually what we have on Earth or in the surface is a copy of what what we see in the Astral City.
Even technologically speaking, right?
Exactly. That's
many devices. For example, do you remember there is this video on my channel, Spirit Connection, about Peixotinho, right? I think you should watch it too. It was a great physical medium in Brazil, Chico Xavier's friend, and once they were in Peixotinho as a circle and with Peixotinho, and people from Astral City started materializing, and one of them was the minister Clarencio. He materialized. It was a surprise. Even the spirits got surprised that Clarencio was there, and some devices that they used, and they are cited in the book, they were materialized at this meeting in Rio de Janeiro. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Anyway, so just to depict, more or less, if we can imagine, where Nosolar is not, or Astral City is not really the a top-notch place, is rather very close to our reality, and that's why we see organization, we see things so close to what we see on surface. But like Luiz was saying, the higher the realm, then we'll start seeing things that is not so common here. Okay, so we are talking about the year 1944, and back then, the idea of heavens, the idea of spiritual realm was really angelical beings, clouds, this guy in a very nice chair, and then this book came along talking about ordinary umbra or lower realms, talking about these shocking news even for Christians. Back then, we didn't have a lot of spiritist centers in Brazil. We didn't have a lot of spiritists in Brazil. As a matter of fact, the country was predominantly Catholic, and as such, the idea of heavens, of spiritual realms, was more like a Catholic. So, but this book was saying the opposite, was saying, well, no, guys, wake up. Shocking news. We have these lower zones, we have the lower realms, and, the spirit, as we transition to the other side, there is this transition place where you try to find your mind, stabilize your mind and find yourself somewhere. Oh, by the way, we have hospitals, we have places for folks to receive some treatment before you actually stabilize yourself. So this umbral idea was very shocking, and it was the heaven and hell type of paradigm, and it was not really well accepted by the folks in Brazil, even the spiritists. It was not really well accepted. The other thing that was shocking, for example, you see in the book saying, okay, there is a war, and then this group of spirits, rescuers, start rescuing Jewish people. Oh, how come that, so those kind of things, those ideas was not even accepted by the Spiritists at that point. Any comment there, Luiz? I think you were trying to say something. Okay. Do we need to cover that, how the Astral City is organized? Leda, would you like to comment that?
Well, I can, but I don't know if my English will help with that. Well, there are 6 ministries, right? Luiz?
Ministry, yeah.
Ministries, and 4 are closer to the earth, and 2 are more connected to the higher realms. So they would be, and there is a governor, which has a palace and a staff as well. And everybody works, or most people work in these ministries. So some are more connected to the earth, and which are the ministry of
regeneration,
helping, auxílio, né?
Yeah, assistance,
regeneration, assistance, communication,
clarification. I do not know if clarification is the right translation, but that's, I didn't find anything better. I did not have the book in English, but
Giles is sending us the book in English, I think. And then we have the higher ones, which are the
divine union and elevation.
And what's the other one?
Well, I think it's elevation. I do not know if this is the house.
So they help pray, and with this praying that they do, and with this higher thoughts that they keep the air and the vibration of the city higher. So these 2 ministries, they have this task of having the vibration higher, the water cleaned. So they help in the well-being of everybody that lives there, and most people come to earth again from Astral City. They reincarnate, and so that's why we have this clarification, and so you regeneration, so that you can prepare. Some people
for the next.
Yeah, they will receive the spirits that come from earth. They will help them. They will try to make them understand what didn't go right, and prepare, study. They will study and prepare for coming back to earth.
Yeah.
But still, there's a small percentage of the spirits that are ready to go to the upper levels, but these are very, like, I don't remember the number, but a very low amount of spirits. They get prepared to go to the upper levels.
Yeah. That's another very important information. Remember, this is 1944. Nobody knew about this. Everybody had this idea of heavens, angelical beings flying over. And now André Luiz is talking about, no, there is this city. Oh, by the way, there is an entire organization, there is an entire infrastructure that it is required to keep the whole city working, right? So so then all the spiritists, they start realizing how serious, how well organized the spiritual realm is, you know.
And there's a lot of discipline and times to pray together. And what's interesting as well is that sometimes my students, when we talk about spiritualism with them, they say like, oh, I'm going to die and go to the spiritual plane. Am I going to see Jesus? Am I going to, you know, we think that everything is very fast, but it's not, because evolution is one step by step, you know. And sometimes you go to Astral City and you don't remember all your past lives, for example. So they have the place there, and they describe it in Astral City as well. Dona Laura, right? The woman who receives Andrea Luiz at her home.
Yeah.
She says that she was there with her husband for, I'm horrible with numbers. I don't know if it's 20 years or
Yeah, a lot of years. Yeah, I don't
many
remember.
years. And then they started to feel a little bit unwell. And then they decided to see someone. Why aren't we feeling the same joy as we used to? And then they were advised to check on their past lives, which they didn't remember naturally. So these past lives, they had a place to go in the clarification, I guess, and they could see their past lives. They read them. They read as a book in a book, and then after reading it, they could go to this place where they could see their past lives and get in touch emotionally, so they could program, they could plan their next lives, their next steps, right? So everything is very gentle and very what you're able to do, what you can do, very respectful, and one step after the other, you know.
Yeah, there is no bypasses or yeah, thank you. Okay, so this is another trailer I would like to.
Anna, what about the time at the top of the hour?
Oh, are we? Oh, yeah. Okay, so we'll be back to this, and yeah, thank you. I was not aware of the time, but we'll be back to this presentation again next. Oh, sorry, Gloria, you have a.
I just wanted to thank you. It's obvious you've put a lot of work in for this, and I really appreciate it. I'm learning so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The hour before this and this. So thank you for both.
Yes, thank you, Anna. You too. It's our gratitude.
Thank you, guys.